he is amazing. He's going to talk to you what he does. And he has done as high as 1 year, $300 million a year. All right? So he's a big-time producer. So he's talking to you about how he does his thing. And Nathan, there you go.
Thank you. Thanks, Simon. So nice to meet everyone today. I'm actually visiting from Destin, Florida. This is my first time to New Jersey. Simon and I met literally less than a month ago. He called. It's an honor to be here today. For those of you that do not know Destin, Florida, 30A, Santa Rosa Beach, Panama City Beach, I highly recommend it. I'll give some connection pieces to me. If you ever want to go on a vacation there, I'd love to host you. It is my native home. I'm empowering other people to level up our organization, and it's all started from Working Genius. When do you feel most alive? When you're actually working in a place that you have alignment, true alignment. I see a lot of people talk about real estate, and they say that they want a balance. And to me, if you have a balance, that means you almost have to hate something to love the other. And it's this constant battle of balance to work. I'm learning to have true congruency because real estate is a part of my lifestyle. I've learned to blend the two together. My sister's a perfect example. She was running this amazing nonprofit called Gulf Therapy, where she takes people out on the water. She helped heal herself in a very traumatic event, and she's teaching people how to use nature to really find peace. And she raises money for people's mental health treatments that can't afford it. And has been very successful in our market, but she always had this piece that felt that being a successful real estate agent was almost ran against her nonprofit, and she would never blend the two. In fact, she tried to separate the two. And I told her, I said, if you can learn to take your positioning as a top agent, because any nonprofit also needs funding, and you can blend your passion of your nonprofit, you're gonna become one of the most recognized people in our market. And once she blended those two through true congruency, that's how she got there. With my own family, my wife was my real estate partner for 12 years until we had our second child. She's been a stay-at-home mother. It's something that was really important to us. She wanted that's our biggest investment. So fortunately, we've been able to have that. But I was, I was a little, in the beginning, a little frustrated because she was all the behind the scenes. She was the operator. I hate operations. I know how to do it, but that's part of my frustrations in the Working Genius exercise. And so when I didn't lose her, but when she moved on to focusing on our kids exclusively, I was like, man, I'm gonna have to hire 5 people to do what you were doing for us because she just got me. I could be out in the field, run around like a crazy person, and she was just sending me leads, and they were always qualified, ready to roll. So I had to kind of recreate the wheel. And with my kids, I didn't want them to make them to feel that I was absent. So I sat down with them. I really focused on trying to go on a vacation. It's harder now with sports and school, but once a quarter, go somewhere with them. And I sat down, we're saying prayers, and I said, listen, I can be 2 types of dads. I can be the one that's home every night for dinner and all these things, or sometimes with real estate, I am not present all the time, but we can go on these vacations, but you can choose to be the dad who you want me to be. And they said, Daddy, I pray that I could be on vacation forever. And I said, well, baby, I'm praying the same thing. And so they actually stick up for me. My wife will say, well, where were you for dinner? And I try to make dinners when I can. And my son was like, Mom, he's working for the vacations. Like, back up. I'm like, hell yeah. But then they made the mistake and says, well, Dad's the one making the money now. I said, no, that's not how you argue. That's not good. Mom allows me to be out there and do what I do. And so she's very supportive. I think you have to truly have alignment at home to be able to do the things that we do. And it's including your family around that. I have my kids on payroll. Anytime that I'm doing open house or when I show up, like, I don't want to do that. I said, well, you're on payroll this week. And so it's we find really good alignment. I'm 3rd generation within my family, so all I've ever known is real estate. My wife became a broker, so she'd have something to talk about at the dinner table. There's 6 types of genius, and this is how they flow together. It is wonder. Wonder's my sister. They have, head in the sky, big picture ideas. They ask a ton of questions. And before I realized what my sister's working genius was, it was always like, man, Amanda, too many damn questions. Like anything I try to bring to the surface, it was like a million questions. But that was her genius. That's how her mind works. Mine is invention. I'm the only inventor on my team. Inventors change their ideas a lot. There's a lot of inventors out there that could have ideas that could change the world, but if they don't have the right people to patent the idea, build the solution, build the distribution line, there's so many inventions that never happen because they don't have the right people in the right roles to actually make that happen. For my team, until they realized what my working genius was, they always thought I was disrupting. I'd come back with all these ideas and like, man, you're always trying to change things. It's crazy, like it's hard to keep up with. And because a lot of the people that were on my team are discerners. I called discerners at first, before I realized it was genius, dream crushers. My wife's a discerner. I'd come home from an event, mastermind, baby, I'm so excited. We're gonna do all these things. She's like, how's that gonna work? Or what are we gonna do to do that? Or are you sure about that? And I believe in everything. Inventors believe in everything, believe in everybody, everything. Sometimes we'll just jump into way too many things. And my wife, she was quite the observer, a woman of few words, but very smart. There's not a single person in my entire career that she said wasn't going to work that did. And she would know it literally within the first 10 minutes of meeting that person. And I was like, oh no, they're great, they're gonna be awesome. She's like, I don't think it's gonna work. And a year later, it was like a disaster hire. And Dana, our accountant, she's a discerner, but I would always kind of blow it off like, hey, you're in accounting and finance. You know, these are decisions we're making that are outside of your realm. Therefore, I wasn't really listening to what she had to say. We had some Green Beret guys on our team. We have a lot of military, Eglin Air Force Base and the Army. We have special forces in our area. And so Mike was on our team, really good friend of mine. We're still great friends today. He wanted to launch a heroes division for military. Dana, right off the bat, said, I don't think this is gonna work. You're trying to run two separate companies now within our company. Can't we just be a company that supports military versus trying to build a whole nother division around it? It's like, no, I want to follow this with Mike's dream. 2 years later, the trailer that he had for all the events that was screen printed is sitting in my driveway at my office. It says the Heroes Division. That never happened. And Mike, today, you know, we actually parted ways. Still amazing friends. He's an incredible guy, but she was right off the beginning. And she came back. She actually works in Tennessee remotely, and she just came back to visit us, and she said, I see that trailer in the parking lot. How did that go? I said, well, as you know, it didn't work. She said, if you listened to me 2 years ago, we would have saved a lot of money, and you wouldn't have gone down that path. And so now where I'm at, they know my invention mindset is what's needed to move the business forward. Without invention, you kind of stay in your lane. You don't jump out on the uncomfortable spots. But instead of dream crushers, they're my most valuable asset because I can come to the table with all these wild ideas, and the discerners, I want them to check it. And I tell them, I said, you know, if I bring a bunch of ideas and you check all the ideas, it really breaks someone like me. Like that really can shut me down. So they've given me permission that we can choose one idea per quarter that they can work on, but past that, no more ideas. And so I just continue to throw things against the wall with them. And they don't look at it as disruptive anymore. They look at it like, man, like we need these ideas. She came to me and said, you know, I'm not sure how that system you're wanting to implement is going to work. I mean, before I said, no, it's going to work, Dana. I said, well, why don't you think it's going to work? And what do you think would work better? And I said, by the way, why don't you talk to Clay, our operator, to ask him what his thoughts are, because he's a discerner, but he also has a different trait. I said, then come back to me with a solution, and then we're going to implement that. And she's like, really? You're going to allow me to make that decision? I said, well, I've learned those decisions are my frustrations when it comes to operations. And if I step in there like I've always done, it's going to undermine you. You're not going to feel empowered. I said, that is your genius, regardless of what your positioning is. And I want to hear from you of what you think is going to work, and I'm going to support that. That's when you start believing in other people, when you truly see their genius and you support their ideas more than your own in that field because that's their natural gift. Galvanizing is also what I am. You're two, every one of you will have two working geniuses. Galvanizing is when you bring people around your ideas. The problem if you skip discernment is that you have all these ideas, and for agents that may not think as fast as you do, and you try to bring everyone around those ideas, you end up starting a lot of ideas that never get finished. And that's disruptive, right? It's like too much change. even though you got to adapt, too much change is not good at times either. So now I'm so excited. I'm like, before I tell anybody about my ideas, I need all the discerners on my operational team, including my wife, to let me know what they think may work and what may not work. And it's really changed a lot. Enablement is my business partner, TJ. They're the ones that they like an idea. They're going to be your biggest cheerleader. They're going to jump in. TJ is a millennial, and for most millennials I know, they're the worst in technology on the planet because it was like everything was coming out in apps at their times. But he sees some of the direction that we're going in operations, and you would think that he's been doing this for 50 years. I mean, when he finds something that he likes, that he sees going to work, he's going to enable and empower that. Some of the transitions we made with our company, he was the one that helped bring the rest of our team on to say, hey, I've actually spent the time with Nathan. We met with these people. This is really going to work. And in the end, tenacity. My wife is discerning and tenacity. Tenacity is the person that actually finishes the project. That's not me. They're the ones that say, okay, I know what needs to be done. It's been checked with people on your team, and I'm going to build it out. And I'm going to build it out quicker than anybody because they're project-based. And I went through some of these things. Wanderer always asks, what could be better? What could be better than's currently happening? They have big ideas in the sky, but very rarely do they even bring those ideas to fruition. So wanderers really need inventors. I can talk to my sister. She has crazier ideas than I do, but I can kind of go through those ideas and say, you know what? These are really, really crazy. I know mine are crazy, but yours are on a different stratosphere. But I like this one, and I like this one, and here's something that I think. And so we work together, and her and I communicate so much better now because I'm like, ask the questions, ask the wonder, give me your big ideas. Invention, they're the ones that actually create the new ideas. So they take a lot of the wonder that's in the sky, they create the new ideas, and then you move it on to discernment. This is all in order of how you should look at working genius. They have senses that will work. They know quicker than I ever will if this solution's going to work or not. And it's, again, because they're the second position from a personality type to invention, they're my most valuable asset because now there's 4 people that are discerners on my team. Every idea I have, I'm never going to release it to the team. I'm going to talk to them because we're in a safe space. They understand my genius now, and we talk through it. Galvanizing rallies people to act. And enablement is supporting and helping others roll that out. And tenacity, they're the one that drives the work to completion. You have to have tenacity people. We were talking earlier, I think, Simon, you're probably an inventor as well. It sounds like you, I'm not sure where Simon's at, but has a lot of ideas. And there's Simon, lots of ideas, right? All over the place. And the team's like, holy crap, here comes the ideas again. But I'm going to teach you, Simon, how to actually align the team because when you do the working genius in your team or an individual, or you want to communicate better with your spouse, it goes across the board. They actually, when you register your team, it's like $20 a person to take it. It's going to put it in the gears of your team and show what genius are you missing from within your team. Where do you have genius that has alignment? And once you can see that within your team, I can tell you by going through the exercise, it's truly changing the way that we serve people and the way that we roll things out to the point that I'm more excited about my business right now than I have been in the 24 years I've been in it because now that we're discovering this, I think we're going to take it from 300 million to 600 million. I think we're going to grow from there. And every day that we're showing up now, we know where our geniuses are, where we can interact with each other, and it's just like this empowerment that we're rolling through. Design all your work around your genius. You got to lean into your strengths. Delegate what drains you. I was finding, so the way that it works is that when you do the exercise, for those I'm not being paid from them. They don't even know I'm speaking of it, but it's workinggenius.com. It takes about 15 minutes to go through, 20 minutes. It's going to show you your 2 greens. Your greens are your natural working genius. It's going to show you your 2 yellows. Yellows are things that you're very capable of doing, but if you're doing it for too long, you just get burned out a lot faster. You become disenchanted. You're not empowered. And then your frustrations, you should try to avoid that at all cost. And so for me, my frustrations are actually their discernment. I don't check a lot of ideas. I believe in everything, and it's tenacity, because I was one of those kids in school. I knew this from a young age, is like, if people understood how my mind worked, which was all over the place, quite ADD, I found a lot of real estate agents are, I would either be their best student because they understood who I was and they communicated that, but if they try to plug me into this box, it's like tight operator, I was just, would just not be interested. And my mother was funny. She's a first grade teacher. And she said, I always love going to your student conferences because I'd be waiting in line and they'd say, oh, the girl in front of Sally, she's just the amazing student. She's so quiet and she just pays attention and she studies. And the next one would be like, oh, Kenneth, he's just so calm and chill. And then my mom would come and say, oh, you're Nathan's mother. He's active. I was a good kid, but my mind was all over the place. And so now I know if it falls within this piece, I got to get out of it. And where I was really screwing up in operations is I knew enough to hurt me. And we'd have operators in that position, and I was always trying to jump in. And no, it needs to be done like this. But I was actually working in the worst version of myself, and I was wondering why I was drained, why I was so frustrated, why sometimes I felt like giving up. Kicking that can down the street, as mentioned, it's always operations for me. Where other people in operations, like Clay that we just brought on, I think he's going to be phenomenal. He's like, man, I just love charts and, doing budgets and all these different things. I'm like, come on, keep talking. And he's like, and I said, do you want an operations position? He was actually an agent on our team, and we realized he had longevity in operations, sales operations. He's incredible at it. And I'm empowering him right off the bat. I said, I trust you better in the space, way more than myself. I'm going to share with you some things that I'm thinking, and I want you to actually lay out the groundwork. We've been trying to build a great onboarding platform for the past 2 years. Clay's making more ground in 2 weeks than we've been dabbling in it for 2 years because he has a framework that he can work now, and he's just exceptional because he's truly working within his genius. You don't have to make huge changes. It's the small realignment shifts. Small realignment shifts make huge gains. And then from there, you can live and lead from your genius. Once you understand, you can know where do you want to spend your time? Where do you want to spend your energy? For me, it was invention. It was learning. I'm a sponge for knowledge. I love learning. I love, just having vision, being a connector. I've always loved people and the art of sales. And that's where I need to be. I need to be out mentoring my agents. Did you have a question? Yes. Few small shifts will lead you to your genius zone. And what I did, this is the power of some of the AI, I took the Working Genius, and they have a lot of really great workshops within that. If you pay a little bit of extra, they'll take your whole team through it. All I did was go to ChatGPT and say, hey, here's my 2 working geniuses. What are the things that I should be working on? And for me, one of the things that I was really passionate about is I've been working on a book the past 3 years, and I almost stopped writing it because of my invention mindset. It started going into 4 different directions. I didn't have a beginning to the end. I realized I will never finish this book because the operational flow, again, is not my genius. I got to get a publisher. Within getting a publisher, within a week, they built the framework of point A to point B. So now I had a beginning and an end, which my mind doesn't work that way. And within the past year of working with them, we've made such progress that the book will be published in 6 to 8 months. And it's because I empowered people outside of where their genius was to elevate my frustrations. When people work within their genius, work becomes a gift, not a grind. And I wanted to just kind of share about just a touch on this book that I'm writing because I think so many of us are lost. It's called Get Out of Your Square. And get out of your square, with social media and all the things, there's so many gifts to it, but you're finding people living this fictitious reality. They don't find authenticity. They don't find who they are. And it's really sad to know that there's a lot of adults that will take it to their grave and never share who they are naturally. They're so concerned about what other people think. I was forced at a very young age. At 16 years old, I was a ginger, which there's less of us in the world than anyone. So as a redheaded kid in elementary school and junior high, it was tough. My family also, at the time, was the largest employer in Destin, Florida. My grandfather was the first real estate agent there in the early 60s. My father and my uncle were really the only two real estate guys there. I was able to watch them follow a vision and a dream. My dad's an inventor when no one else believed. No one saw the struggle that my mom's teaching salary was surviving for the family. We had milk carton furniture with plywood on top with tablecloths, beanbag chairs, and to see his vision over and over again was so inspiring, but I also really rejected our family's company. It's called Abbott Realty Services. We managed about 85% of our market share from the 80s to late 90s, and I hated Abbott Realty because everyone taught me, treated me like I was an interview for a job position or didn't know who I could trust, and I was really kind of in a broken spot. I rejected it a lot. I went on a hiking trip for 130 miles when I was 16 through an organization called Knowles in Wyoming, and it literally changed my life because it made you realize the little simple things in life are so important. And I knew when I came back, I was gonna be exactly who I was designed to be. And if you're cool with me, I was gonna give you the shirt off my back, be the best person I could for you. But if you weren't, no problem, I was moving on. We didn't have social media then either, so you didn't have the pressure that these kids have. And these kids are so lost because they're under a microscope. So I've worked so hard with our kids to really find their identity, not be afraid to share that with the world. The change for me in real estate and why I decided to go into real estate later in life is this one moment, through all the rejection that I had for this, pressure that I experienced. Hurricane Opal was the only hurricane I've ever evacuated from my lifetime here. And my father had to lay off 800 people in the back of a pickup truck on a microphone. My grandfather was the one that gave him the advice because he lived a very wealthy lifestyle, and I'll finish in 30 seconds. He lived a very healthy lifestyle, a very wealthy lifestyle, but they lost everything in the Great Depression because he held on to everyone. My father had to lay these people off on a microphone, and I saw everyone in that audience that said, this is our family unit, this is where we feel at home, we're gonna work for free until we get this business back on track. And within 8 months, he was able to rehire everyone that was there, 90% of them, and pay them all back wages because of the connection that they had. And so real estate is that position that we can really create impact, empowerment, connection. Please take the working genius. I promise you, it'll change your life like it is mine.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nathan.
Sorry, I went over.